Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Brick City Blockade Star Wars Podcast Network. Very special episode for you tonight. We made the announcement not that long ago. I'm so excited to have Mr. Caden Stettler here with me, the new member of the Brick City Blockade Podcast Network, known for Rebel Cause Lancaster and Rebel Chatter. Caden, we have an interesting subject to talk about tonight.
Oh, absolutely, man. First off, I want to start by saying it's an honor to be on the network. I'm very excited to be working with you guys because we obviously have very similar ideals and thoughts about Star Wars and what it means to us and everything else. And actually, I guess the topic of discussion tonight is actually how I found you guys. Um, I guess, yeah, just a continuation of that. But yeah, why don't you remind everybody what that is, just for the listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So Scott Inch and I on Talking Far, Far Away, we did an episode not too long ago, but it was really focused around positivity in the community and making sure that fans have their voices heard in a specific way so that they're not judged. They feel that they're open to share their thoughts and that the world and the community is able to understand them based on their perspective. And Caden, I mean, it's so great that you were able to find us through that episode and look at where we've ended up now. It's such a reflection of the time and of the experiences that we've had. But the big thing about that episode that we carried forward was the community aspect, and that's where the term "unity is community" came from here at the network. And Caden, just overall, I think we've come to that point again with everything with the Last Jedi, and again everything in the world. We had a time and period where there was some understanding, there was some people were having conversations left and right. We were on an equal path, and then it happened again. That's how I kind of look at it. We went through another
Yeah.
period where people were at each other's throats on some things, and it just. I'd like to hear your thoughts because obviously that's how you found us, and I don't know. I think there's just so much to discuss when it comes to keeping that positive mindset here, not just in the Star Wars community, but carrying that throughout life.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that the first thing I want to say is with Rebel Cause for people not too familiar with us yet. You will get to know us over the next few months here, but the group was started because I have always loved Star Wars and I wanted to give back to the community because arguably, that is one of the most important things in life that you can do.
Mm.
It doesn't matter really at the end of the day how much money you have, what kind of clothes you wore, what kind of car you drove, kind of house you lived in. The thing you're going to be remembered for is your actions. The actions you take in life that affect other people positively and negatively. But I've spent a lot of time since I started Rebel Cause thinking about, and this has been a big one for me, the kind of legacy I wanted to leave behind. Um, not that I'm thinking about dying anytime soon or anything like that, but
Right.
it's an important thing. You remember great men not for their money and like I said, all their material things, but the actions they take. And I think dealing with the Star Wars community, and spoilers for everybody listening, if you have not seen The Last Jedi yet, I'm going to spoil some things, but I think that's what some people are a little bit confused about with the quote unquote death of Luke Skywalker. Um,
Mhm.
he transcended into the Force. That's why quote unquote dying.
Mhm.
He chose to become one with the Force, and he did that right after saving the rebellion, which is the rebellion again. It's not the resistance. That's a
Mhm.
great line in that film. After saving everybody one last time, and the ending of the Last Jedi is really what speaks to that. It's definitely a different ending, something we have not seen before.
Mhm.
It was those kids, and I think the message that a lot of people understand and a lot of people seem to be missing is no matter what Luke did in what he could have done, whether he was actually went to Crate and fought Ben and probably possibly would have died there. The actions and his legend, the legend of Luke Skywalker, are more powerful than he could have ever imagined because he was an inspiration to people. There were a bit of embellishment in some of the things he did. If you read that book, The Legends of Luke Skywalker, but the one thing that always rings true is he was a force for good, through and through. And I think that's such a powerful message that fans that truly understand the mythology and the poetry of Star Wars and understand. Luke was an old man now. How much more did we really want him running around swinging a lightsaber? He arguably did the greatest thing a Jedi Knight could ever do. He became completely selfless and gave himself to the Force, gave himself to the good in the universe. And I think there, more than ever now, people can look to Luke Skywalker as a vision of hope and justice and love and just a force for good, which is what I believe this network and Rebel Cause are doing. Arguably, there's always going to be evil in the world. As Maz said, it was the Sith, the Empire. Today it is the First Order. That can translate to real life as well. Whatever you think. I'm not here to make anybody's opinions for him, but whatever you think evil is, it's always going to be around. But the difference is what you do about it. I'm going to read a little quote here. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the Boondock Saints. Familiar with that movie? Okay.
Oh, yes.
One thing that has always stuck out to me, and I'm going to cut it down here a little bit, but now we all must fear evil men, but there is another kind of evil which we must be more fearful, and that is the indifference of good men. That quote has always really stuck with me because you can always think in your head, like, I'm a good person, in this situation I would do this, whatever. But until you put your money where your mouth is and, really step up to the plate and be a force for change and a force for good, one's duty, especially Star Wars fans, to go that next step, to do, and people listening that look at us possibly and they're like, oh, well, they, have this charity group and this platform to be able to say this message. I'm doing this out of my apartment right now, guys. I've started it from nothing as well, and it just through hard work and really reaching out to people and meeting great people like Robin, and just don't give up. You know what I mean? There's some times where even Rebel Cause was a little hard for me, but through perseverance and everything else, I think we're definitely making a positive change in the community, and it's important. I really think everybody should try their best to make the world just a better place, and start small, man. Start with your community. It's a spark. Like in Rebels, it says, the spark can, turn into a fire, and it is true. I'll let you talk a little bit, Robin. I'm gonna.
No, that was perfect. I mean, you broke it down, Caden, in terms of the experiences that you have had, and I think a lot of those experiences are very universal when it comes to not just life, but also being within this community. We interact with some great people. We interact with Steve Kirk, Andrew Merton Garish. There's just Brian Knapp. I mean, there's just so many great people in this community that are there. I know I'm going to mess up his name, Fabio, on Twitter. And there's just so many great people out there that we interact with on a daily basis that want to support us along every step of the pathway. And my message to people is simple. And I think it's very similar to yours, Caden. And it's along the lines of, if you don't have something positive to say, think about it first. Is it
Yeah.
worth saying right now? If it's not worth saying right now, then let yourself and let your mind marinate on the thought for a while until you're able to make it something positive for this world, for this community. And there's a lot of stuff happening right now where people are spreading a positive word and a negative thing happens
Yeah.
surrounding it. But my message to those people that end up projecting a positive message, but then are given the feedback that's completely negative, you're actually creating that spark by doing that because you're igniting somebody else's opinion. And what usually
Yeah.
happens in those situations is you say something positive and somebody doesn't like it. Well, guess what? Deep down inside of that train of thought, they wouldn't have said something negative to you if they weren't thinking about the positive message first. So that's kind of the overarching theory when it comes to that. And I think you said it perfectly, Caden, when it comes to Luke Skywalker and some of the negativities that are following his projection in The Last Jedi. And it's just a simple formula that when you do good, and maybe you're not so sure about it at first, maybe you're only going to give 3 days of lessons to whoever it is. However, it's one of those things where you try it once and you really start to get yourself involved in it. And I think both Rebel Cause, Rebel Chatter, and the Brick City Blockade Podcast Network, why this is happening is because not only did the Force call to us and bring us together as two separate networks and podcasts and everything that we've been doing, but life has a funny way of connecting things when a message is universal and individuals in life are brought to here with a similar purpose. That's just how it works. And when
Yeah.
you're able to put those two minds together or multiple minds together, sky is the limit. And it happens because people are not afraid to open their mouths and share
No,
a positive
absolutely.
message when the time has come, Caden. And I think really the message that we're trying to share, and what you said perfectly, was that, unless you try to move yourself in that direction and share those thoughts and create these relationships and continue these conversations every single day and get to know the person across from you like they're your brother or your sister, none of that happens. And it's so important in this community and in life that we take that by the handles and we just run with it.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. And I another thing I kind of want to say is I've and I won't name names obviously, but I mean some people have seen part of what I'm going to be talking about, just on Facebook and everything else. In such a crazy time, if anybody in this world should be united, it's Star Wars fans.
Mm-hmm.
I have recently seen a lot of obviously negativity towards this new film, and that sucks. Just
Yeah.
to put it, bluntly. I really think people that don't love this movie, um, you need to see it again, and you
Mm-hmm.
need to really understand. I think the main thing people are upset about is Luke's death, but Luke won really.
Yeah.
He didn't die. He didn't you know go out with a whimper. He went out with this giant, awesome one last hurrah. He saved everyone one last time, and uh,
Mm-hmm.
some people are having a little bit of trouble letting go of that. This we've known from the beginning that this isn't their story anymore. This is not Han, Luke, and Leia's story, and arguably, Luke's story was kind of over in Episode 6. He destroyed the Sith with his father. Some people argue that it was Vader, but Luke was obviously very much so the catalyst for it.
Right.
And this is about the next generation of Jedi. The last Jedi now is Rey, and
Mm.
it's anyway. So the thing that I want to say is Star Wars fans I've seen some different groups now. I won't name any names. You guys know who you are if you're listening to this. But some groups within Star Wars, even there's some not hatred, I wouldn't say, but some animosity, some negativity between different groups. And my message to Star Wars fans is, you really need to stick together. Star Wars is honestly a force for good,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
it being used in a way that is, not allowing people to be involved, or you know, excluding other people just because of opinions, or any situation, is really upsetting. I've seen it firsthand, and I, like I'm saying, man, Star Wars is supposed to be a force for good, and
Yeah.
I would really urge fans not to get divided over this, because here's what I've been saying from the get go with this new trilogy.
Hmm.
You don't have to love this new trilogy. That's fine, and you can
No, it's
still be
true.
a Star Wars fan.
Hmm.
Does not mean you need to crap on it and put it down. You can disagree. In my head, Yavin. You know what I mean? After episode
Yeah.
6, started a new Jedi Academy, and those books and stories are always going to ring true to me. People got to start to think like, this is kind of an alternate take on what could have happened. Whether you
Yeah.
want to think the books are that for you or the films are that for you, that's fine. I will always love, all the books. You know, Jason Solo and Jaina Solo are some of my favorite characters. But it does not mean that these are bad. These new films are bad or wrong. If the best thing I could tell fans is, if Legends in your head is your canon, that's fine.
Hmm.
Then just think of these movies as Legends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you can have both, and I've seen so many people that that love the standalones so far, like Rogue One, and aren't a big fan of the saga films, which is confusing to me, because that's already rewriting some
Yeah.
history with Star Wars. Before that movie, Kyle Katarn stole the Death Star plans.
Yeah, that's
You know
right.
what I mean?
That's right.
And Jan Ors, not Jin Urso. um,
Yeah.
and that's fine. And my biggest thing is, I would like Mara Jade example. I love that character. That's
Hmm.
one of my top 10 Star Wars characters. I would
Yes.
not want to see her become canon,
No. No. I can't
especially
believe that.
now, because it's going to be, and they did it pretty well with Thrawn so far.
Hmm.
It's different, and it's not going to be the same. Um,
Right.
but Lucasfilm is doing everything they can, and especially Filoni, man. Filoni is. I'm excited. I'm hoping for a day where Filoni is the master of all this, man.
Yeah, I
Because
know.
he's incredibly talented, and he's kind of an extension of George. And whether you love that or not, love the prequels or not, the people that hate on George Lucas for making the prequels, George Lucas is the one who made the original trilogy as well. So,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean that's it. He is the one that really kicked this all off for us to have this discussion. I mean, without George Lucas, we wouldn't have any of this. And
yeah, we'll be talking about Buck Rogers, and that's about it.
that's true. This is very true. And
Yeah.
the other thing about the whole positivity message too is that you know the whole moving conversation. We're not trying to inflict opinions on anybody or try to change your mind on any of this. It's just
Oh,
one of
no.
those things that we've noticed. Cade and I have noticed now that he's joined Brick City Blockade Podcast Network, and now that we are a unified group here, it's one of those discussions that we have to have because just to move forward and to have our fans be an integrated part of the network and be part of these discussions, there just has to be a standard of, you know what, if you're going to come into the conversation, You can have some constructive criticism about this stuff as long as you have evidence to
Oh,
prove it.
absolutely.
And you can be
Yeah. No,
a,
absolutely.
a very positive person for the discussion by doing that. It's just when you come in and you're just like, nah, can't stand this, can't stand that, can't stand this. This is the worst. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. It's like, hold on, take a step back, push the brake a little bit, and tell us why.
Hmm.
And that's my big thing, Caden, is if you don't tell me why and you can't give me a reason for it, then I can't help you. That's really where it's
Yeah.
at.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. You don't have to like this. You know what I
Right.
mean? Any of the new content. And guess what? You don't have to like any of the old content either. I mean, honestly, some stuff I can say about Legends is it got pretty out there. There was some
Yeah.
stuff in Legends that I was just like, really? Okay. But, I accepted it over time and it became part of it. And now I think of those, like, honestly, the first time I ever heard about the Yuzon Vong, I was
Mm.
like, what? They can't be affected by the Force is weird. Now I think of the Yuzon Vong as, that happened. That was part of and honestly, they were almost part of the canon too, for people that don't know about that. That was some of the lost episodes of the Clone Wars.
Right.
There are so many things that people, and another thing, I was flipping through a comic today, Dark Empire, I think it was one or
Yeah.
two. Are you familiar with that comic?
Yes, a little bit. That was one of those ones that I kind of explored for a little bit and I didn't really get into, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So people have been complaining about Luke's astro projection thing, whatever it's called. We don't have
Hmm.
a name for it yet, but and they're like, oh, that's not Star Wars. And flipping through that comic today, and Luke helps Han and Leia and Chewie escape Biss. That's where the Emperor was at the time. This is the whole clone Emperor thing.
Hmm.
They all escape on the Falcon together. And Leia's like, Luke, like, what's going on? What happened? How are you going to stop him now? And Luke says, that's simple. I'm still on Biss. And he disappears. And he was projecting himself. This isn't
Right.
a new thing that people aren't
No,
familiar with, In the
you're right.
Legends books, they have these astro projections as well.
Yep.
That's some of the stuff that I think people, number one, if you're going to have an argument, check your facts a little bit more,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
this is things that have been in Star Wars forever.
Hmm.
People complaining about Snoke.
Yeah.
Um, we met Snoke 2 years ago today.
Hmm.
Today is 2 years since Force Awakens came out.
That's right.
And people are, weird, like, oh, he didn't get a backstory. And now, again, spoiler if you're listening, Snoke just dies in this movie.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and they're upset about it.
Mm.
We were introduced to the Emperor in 1977. They mentioned the Emperor a little bit. We see the Emperor for the first time, which was actually just a monkey and mixed with somebody else's face in 80.
Right.
And
That's right.
then we met the Emperor for about 10 minutes on screen in
Hmm.
83 when Return of
That's
the
right.
Jedi came out. And do you have any idea when we got a backstory for the Emperor? So that's like
Oh man.
1980.
Man, we didn't get, well, obviously we really didn't get a backstory until the prequels. I
It was
mean,
20 years.
yeah.
20 years until we got like any sort of backstory. And honestly, like the prequels, yeah, it's a backstory, but he's shrouded in mystery in that too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And then 2000 and I think it was 12 was when Plagueis came out, the book.
That's right.
That's really the backstory. And now guess what? That's not canon anymore either.
Hmm.
So people complaining about, oh, who's Snoke? Who's Snoke? Just wait.
Yeah.
We'll know who Snoke was. I don't
Yeah.
think it'll be that important, honestly. But
That's a really good
yeah.
point. That's a really good point. It's going to take some time for some of these characters for us to get a really good idea about who they are. It's not something that's going to be answered right away. I think we've come to an age and a time where people want answers and they want answers now. And for the longevity of Star Wars and for what Disney and Lucasfilm want, we're not going to get that right away. It's just, and it was never that way to begin with.
Yeah.
I think they're sticking it true to what George wanted it to be, which was this longer period of character building, not immediate character building like we've seen with some of these other franchises. So I think it's really, really important that as fans, we look at it and we say, okay, we're taking this step by step. We're not going to take six giant leaps into the next storyline and have the questions answered in that one part. No, you guys have to
Yeah.
pump the brakes again and just wait this out because it's going to be satisfying. It's one of those things I have to even tell myself. It's like, hold on, Robin, take a break for a second.
Yeah.
Pump your brakes. We're gonna get some answers down the road, even if it's 20 years later. We're going to
Yeah.
get them, and that's really what's exciting about this, Caden, and why we're having this conversation is because now's the time to start doing that and slowing down for these fans. And I had to do it too after seeing the movie. I told myself I got to slow myself down. I got to really look at this in a broad perspective going
Yeah.
forward, because if I don't, I'm going to drive myself crazy. I'm going to just
Yeah.
every day I'm going to wake up and say, why didn't I get this? Why didn't I get that? Staying positive and finding the eternal sunset, I guess you could say, for Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi,
Mm-hmm.
where you can be at peace and you can say, yep, this is my role heading forward. I need to just slow down and find my place. So I think positivity is that alone, Caden. I think
Yeah.
positivity is the process of slowing ourselves down and looking at it in a different light than maybe what we started with.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. And for people listening right now, that are, like I had kind of said before, like, how am I supposed to be this, source of good positivity, all that? My kind of call to action for everybody, number one, if you want to be involved, get in touch with us.
Yes.
Whether it's Robin, with the Brick City. Well, it's all us now. Brick City Blockade Podcast Network. If you're local to Pennsylvania,
Mm-hmm.
Rebel Cause, you can. It is literally this simple to get involved, guys. Come get
Yeah.
involved. You know what I mean? But if you're a little further away, here's my call to action, everyone. Start with the little things in life. Wait a couple seconds and hold that door open for somebody, that was a little further away than maybe you would have held it open for before. It just do the little things. Help. You see somebody struggling with something, carrying something, whatever. Just be that person that goes out of their way. Maybe in line at McDonald's or whatever, getting your coffee in the morning. Maybe pay the person's behind you, just because.
Mm-hmm.
Those
Mm-hmm.
little things it is a butterfly effect, man.
Yeah.
You don't know what kind of day people are having. And my biggest thing to people, smile. Look at someone and just be pleasant. The
Yeah.
person that's a cashier somewhere, at McDonald's that you're not thinking much of, smile at them and tell them thank you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, and if you see somebody's name tag that's working somewhere, say, hey, thanks, Robin. Or, let that person know that you care, because you have no idea the kind of impact that can have on somebody. I heard this story a while back about this woman who went into, I believe it was a Dunkin' Donuts, and there was a homeless man outside. And she thought to herself, she's like, you know what? I'm going to have breakfast with this guy. She says, hey. And she bought him like a bagel or something and a coffee and just talked with the man.
Mm-hmm.
And she got up to go to the bathroom, and the man was gone. They had eaten together. He had left a note for her, and it said, I was going to kill myself today. That just by talking to me.
Wow.
Hope for me that you saved my life. And she never saw that guy again, but of love and kindness and positivity changed someone's life. And we all might not be Jedi or whatever, but we all have the power to do something like that. And that is my call to arms, positivity, guys. Just be the hope. be the love, be the positivity.
Be the person that's going to ignite the spark that brings back the positivity in the community.
Yeah.
Well said, Caden. Well said. That I could not agree with you. That is a mic drop on this episode. Keep the positive attitudes and keep doing you. Keep being who you are at heart and who you are as a human being. Well, Caden, I think we've gotten to that part of the Brick City Blockade Podcast Network shows. It's a little thing we like to call.
Plug time?
Oh, wait, you're new here, so I don't know if you know this one.
No, go ahead. Explain it all to me. I'm the newbie. I'm the new kid in school.
So we call it plug time here.
Okay.
The Brick City Blockade Podcast Network. Caden Stetler, where can the good people find you across social media?
Okay. If you want to follow Rebel Cause, follow us on Facebook at the Rebel Cause Lancaster page. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at Rebel Chatter HQ. Sorry. And if you want to listen to our podcast, Rebel Chatter, you can find us at rebelchatter.com or on all of the podcast listening apps or whatever. We are on iTunes. And please rate, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, leave us a review. Just to let us know you love what we're doing. And if you don't, hey, you can tell us that too. That's fine.
Well said, Caden. Well said. You guys can also head on over to brickcityblockade.com. You'll be seeing a lot more of the sharing of the content with Rebel Cause and Rebel Chatter over on our website as well, welcoming them to the Brick City Blockade Podcast Network. You guys can follow me over on Twitter at Mr. Vote Tweets. Please make sure to head on over to Instagram. Follow me at The Official Vote. Again, head on over to www.brickcityblockade.com for everything happening in that galaxy far, far away. And please make sure to head on over to iTunes, subscribe and rate. Your ratings bring on the positivity. They bring on the conversation. They bring the unity into the community.
The community.
That's right. Exactly. Thank you guys so much for listening to this special episode of Positivity Part 2 from the Brick City Blockade Podcast Network and Rebel Chatter, Rebel Cause Lancaster. Caden, awesome conversation, my friend.
Absolutely, man.
And as we always say here at the Podcast Network, may the force be with you.
Always.